Is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. We were off yesterday. We are back today with a 7-game main slate. Our Columbus Blue Jackets not on the slate, but Rick Bonus, up to Rick Bonus things. Healthy scratching Ken Johnson, putting Dmitry Voronkov down on the fourth line. Woosah, Captain, woosah. But we have 7 games here tonight. Couple really big totals. All the really big totals are on at home tonight. Tampa, Montreal, Carolina. Only one team has a road total above 3. That's the team playing the Leafs. Go figure. But 7 games here to help break it down. Some Clifford, what's going on?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Pretty full day of hockey, which is kind of nice. Obviously, Penguins-Rangers going on right now. 2 games starting in the next couple hours. Then there's a bunch of games starting around 5, 6 o'clock Eastern. And then we got the main slate. It's a pretty full day of hockey. Not going to complain about that on a Saturday. Interesting 7-gamer here tonight because 5 of the 7 games start at 7 Eastern. And there are some games where we're missing some information, and we'll talk about that. But it's why we say always check the Discord before lock, because there could be some pretty big changes. There's some guys that were injured for Los Angeles on Thursday. We don't really know what their lineup's going to look like just yet because it's a 7 Eastern start. That's 4 o'clock in the Pacific. They're not going to have a morning skate, all that stuff. So there's going to be some stuff to go through, but pretty interesting slate from the perspective that the late night hammer it's something else, and there's going to be a lot of ownership in that game, and it makes it interesting to navigate. So we'll see how we get through it. Yeah.
And as always, if you're just tuning in for the first time since NHL came back, we do have NHL Sims now, which is really awesome. I've had a fun time learning them. We've had a bunch of success in the Discord with it. You use promo code PUCKLUCK. That'll get you 15% off any subscription at stokastic.com/pricing. If you are an NHL membership and you want to get memberships for other sports, that code works for any sport. It supports us directly, and we thank you. But let's get into this slate.
Hold on. Before we get too much further, we do have to shout out Rocky from the Discord. Winged 22 over on DK had a nice little bank last night. 1K hit, had a full Utah Josh stack. You do love to see it. 6-man stack. 5 fours with a defenseman, correlated Lacombe with Dostal. Matt Boldy one-off. I would say that Matt Boldy one-off worked pretty well for him. High score in his lineup. So very nice night for him. Seen some people have some early success with the Sims. Hopefully we can have some more here tonight.
Yep, as we just got an update now. Thank you, Jacob. But let's get into this slate. Detroit Red Wings with a 2.7 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 3.4. Wings going Larkin, Raymond, Casper, Kopp, Kane, DeBrincat. Carolina going Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Stankoven, Hall, Blake, Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers. Looking at Carolina here, all 3 lines are getting ownership. The second line of Hall, Stankoven, and Blake is under 10K for some reason. They are 9,600. And they're coming in at 8.1% projected with a 2% projected top 2. The thing is, there's not really anything super expensive here tonight. The most expensive line of the night is Carolina 1. So it's like, what do you really need a $9,600? I guess you could power play stack Tampa, and we'll get to that soon. But is there a super need for a 9,600 line that you're willing to play them at 4X? Their top 2, I'm not sure. The 2 lines I do have interest in are the top line 14.6% top two, 6.8% projected ownership. And then the Ehlers Stahl Martinook line, 1.8% top two, 3.6% projected ownership. I think both of those are fine. They've been splitting the shutdown of late, or at least before the break. Maybe they're going back to Aho. Maybe they're going back to Stahl. I forget what they did in their last game. It's kind of important. Do you know?
Yeah, they use the Aho line pretty much exclusively in the shutdown rule.
Yeah, so they're going to get that Sider Evanson pairing, which is a little unfortunate. The Larkin Raymond Casper line below league average defensively, though. The Simon or the Evanson Sider pairing, the only good pairing they have. So with Carolina 1 at 19.5 being the most expensive on the night, I don't think there is a true need to go there. I think going Stahl, Martinook, Ehlers at 11.4 as a filler is probably where I would go here tonight. They've been excellent offensively in 124 minutes. Obviously not finishing at a high rate, but a Stahl Martinook line never does. So Carolina 3 for me. I think Carolina 1's fine. I just, the most expensive line of the night going into a very good pair. Just as kind of mum. And again, like Stankov and Hall and Blake are fine, but it's not like there's like 24,000 Edmonton power play or 23-7 Colorado 1 on the slate. So, one off Blake, one off Stankov, and completely fine. There's just a lot of ownership there. On Detroit side, I don't have a ton of interest here, especially with Slavin back in the lineup. I know their penalty kill got scored on the other day, but if anything, it would be Cop to bring Cat Kane. I don't love them in single entry, but they're only 14,800, 6.1% top two, 6.6% projected ownership. Ownership's in line with their top two, but on the road in Carolina with a little bit of negative leverage doesn't really interest me. And again, a Casper line does not interest me. Like he's just weighing them down on both ends of the ice. So for the most part, I'm out on Detroit.
Yeah. The other thing with Detroit is like the power play, which was so good for them last year and, was pretty good to start the season, hasn't been good for months now. Because we are now 3 months removed from American Thanksgiving. Since American Thanksgiving, the Detroit power play is at 6.9 goals. The top unit is at 6.9 goals per 60 minutes. The league average for a top power play is like 8.7, 8.8. So they're like 2 full goals lower than the league average for a top power play over the last 3 months. Now, 3 weeks off of the Olympic break, but you know what I mean. And yeah, they did Carolina's penalty kill. It was Kucherov, I think, scored the goal the other night. Not going to fault them for giving up 1 goal against the Tampa Bay penalty kill or power play. Like, that happens. Yeah. So like Detroit's not one of those teams where I'm interested in power play stacking or anything like that. I keep seeing they've tried, obviously Emmett Finney started the season on the top line. James Van Riemsdyk had some games there. Obviously Alex DeBrincat played there. Now it's Marco Casper. That absolutely screams we're going to trade for somebody at the trade deadline. I'm not even convinced Casper finishes the game there. I mean, if it stays close, maybe he will because they really don't have other options. But you talk about running into the Sider Evanson pairing. Larkin and them are going to run into Slavin, both at 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill. That's just a hard pass for me. So I agree with you. I think Detroit 2 would be the only line I would have interest in to bring Cat Kane Cop. They've been very, very good this season. 3.3 expected goals, 3.7 actual per 60. And they're the second line, but they're not getting second line minutes, right? Like I looked at their game the other night in Ottawa. They played even taking out the overtime ice time that they got. It was 18, 19 minutes, all 3 of them. So under 15K, if they get a power play goal, there are 2 guys there on the top power play unit. I think Detroit too, it's one of those, if you're playing a pilot, a 150 or whatever, and you get a few Detroit 2, okay. I'm not running out to play them in a single entry. My interest is on the Carolina side. I agree with you on the Stankoven line. The only reason to play him is if you're playing Tampa Bay. Other than that, I really don't know. I mean, maybe you're Tavares, Matthews, Nylander from Toronto or something like that. Like there are, like if you play like 3 or 4 of the most expensive players from a couple, like, you know, same thing with Dallas. Like if you're playing Johnston, Robertson, Heiskanen, you know, there are reasons why you might want to play them, but they're not getting a ton of ice time, which always concerns me. You know, the other game, they are around 16 minutes or so. You know, the stall line's been getting a little bit less, but it would probably be Carolina one that I would go with. And it's just because, like, one, like, there's not any ownership coming in on them. As you mentioned, like the Stankoven line is the one with all the negative leverage. That Aho line, 7% on a 7-game slate. And it's Cam Talbot in net, right? That is, it's not John Gibson. That makes a difference. Like John Gibson is saving basically like, I think it's like one goal above expected every 2 games. And Cam Talbot is exactly break even. Like it's like a half goal a game difference. It makes it is a pretty big difference between the two. You know, Detroit penalty kill, not like awful, not great. You
better
know,
than last year.
Yeah, better than last year, but still below average for the season. Still below average over the last 5 weeks. So like, or right around league average. So like, it's a pretty good power play spot. I really do like Carolina one. They are, you know, they did all get 18 to 20 minutes the other night. They're at 3.3 goals per 60 this year. I think they're perfectly fine as a main stack because a lot of lines are priced down here tonight. And you look at the rest of the slate, you see, you know, you see Calgary, you see Los Angeles, you see Vancouver, you see Seattle. Like there are a lot of lines in that like 10 to 12K range that are very playable here tonight. So for me, it's Carolina one in this game. I think you can make a case for any of the 3 Carolina lines, and I would probably play any of the 3 of them before I played any 3-man stack from Detroit.
Concur. The Pilot Lights from Calgary with a 2.5 total heading into Los Angeles. That's a miserable trip. The Kings have a 3 total. Here we go. I'm an idiot. Calgary going Backlund, Sharangovich, Coronado, Kadri, Farabee, Zari, Frost, Greedon, Coleman. Sure. We don't really know the Kings lineup. Drew Doughty and Joel Armia got hurt in the last game. They won't have skate because it's an early start. I would imagine the only line that we know for sure is LaFerriere, Kempe, Panarin.
Oh, they blew that lineup pretty early in that game.
Did they?
Yeah, Kopitar played most of the game on the top line.
That makes some sense. So that's fun. I mean, listen, Calgary's not a very good team, but they are good defensively, and they've shored up their penalty kill. So, you know, the good news there is it's an early lock. There is a lot of ownership. Well, not a lot, but like LaFerriere, Kempe, Panarin currently projected at 9.2% projected. They have 15% top 2. Is it a line? I don't know. Like there could be a combo that looks decent at warmups that might get low ownership. Could be something like Byfield, Panarin, Kempe, or something. I doubt it, but it could be. You know what I mean? You know, I'm kind of interested to see where Byfield ends up. He's kind of interesting to me.
Hopefully in Montreal.
Yeah, Montreal. Yeah. Rangers. I have so many of his rookie cards. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Basically, I want to see what the Kings lineup looks like. If there's a line that looks good at warmups, I would go with them. If Kopitar is in between Kempe and Panarin, that becomes what? It would be 17,600. Like that's pretty playable. I know Kopitar isn't the Kopitar from like even a few years ago, but at 3,800, he gets you an assist, a shot, and a block. You're fine. If Byfield has line mates, I'd be interested in that. Like, I'm not super high on the Kings here. They've looked awful out of the break. But if there's a line that looks good that's not in our top stacks right now that could come in at lower ownership, I would have some interest. On the Flames side, I hate the Flames. Like they always have ownership. They're always cheap. They're always negatively leveraged, and they always suck. But I guess if I had to go to a line, it'd be Kadri, Farabee, Zari. They've been fine-ish in 90 minutes together. They get 2 of the 3 on the top power play. Not that their power play is some world beater, but LA takes a fair share of penalties, and their penalty kill out of the gate has been absolute crap. So it would be that line at 11,300. Farabee and Kadri play well together. I don't really want to play Backlund, Coronado, Sharangovich at their ownership of 7.4%. It's basically double their top 2. If you wanted to leave off Zari and add in Coronado to make it more power play friendly, sure. But for me, it would be Calgary 2 and maybe some Kings if there's a combo that I like in warmups.
Yeah, for now, I'm going to assume Kopitar is on the top line just because he spent so much time there in that last game. But like you said, we have no idea what the lineup is going to look like. One thing I will say is that if Byfield and Laferriere are playing together, it's basically the one duo that has been productive for Byfield this year. 170 minutes at 5-on-5, 3.3 expected goals, 2.9 actual goals per 60. Those numbers are pretty good, not elite, but a lot better than just about anywhere else that he's played. Hasn't been a great season for Los Angeles offensively. So if we do get like a Byfield, Laferriere, like Trevor Moore, or Byfield, Laferriere, even like Taylor Ward or something like that, like I think that would be something I'd be interested in, because like the Kings power play has been better with Brandt Clark, but the Kings power play being better with Brandt Clark is still like worse than league average for a top power play unit. And the Calgary penalty kill, as you mentioned, has been pretty solid this season. So I'm not going to stack the Kings for the power play. Like I get wanting to go to Kempe and Panarin because they're probably going to get a lot of minutes, but like so is Byfield and Laferriere, right? Like in the 2 games coming back out of the break, Byfield played 21 minutes. He even played 18 and a half minutes in a game where they lost by 7 goals. Laferriere will probably play around 17, 18 minutes. They're not expensive. Now it's a double center stack, which obviously sucks. But plenty of ways to work around that. So if I were to play anything from the Kings, it would probably be something around Byfield, Laferriere, assuming they're together at warm-up, just because they have been productive. And I really have no idea what Kopitar, Kempe, and Panarin would look like.
Awful.
And I don't. And let's not forget, like if Drew Doughty's out, like we can make fun of Drew Doughty and his age and his decline and all that and whatever we want. If Drew Doughty's out, Brandt Clark's going to get some more minutes, but you know who else is going to get more minutes? Is like Brian Dumoulin and Cody Ceci, and it is not a good thing. So I honestly don't really have a lot of interest in the Kings. As weird as it is to say, I have more interest in the Calgary side. I mean, listen, Los Angeles lost 6-4 to a Vegas team where half the roster is probably from the AHL because they sat like 5 or 6 of their Olympians.
The ECHL.
Yeah, and then they got their brains bashed in 8-1. Now, 2 games doesn't make a season. They've generally been pretty good defensively this year, but the vibes, as they say, are not good around Los Angeles. Because Doughty's out, like Mikey Anderson's a pretty good defensive defenseman still in his own right. There's nobody that ever can replace Doughty. It's like if they put Cody Ceci with Mikey Anderson or something, it's game over. You know what I mean? So I'm not really that worried about the 5-on-5 matchups. I agree with you. I'd probably go to Kadri, Farabee, and Zari. That line together, 2.7 expected goals, 3.9 actual. So they're riding fairly hot shooting percentages. But all 3 guys played between 17 and 20 minutes the other night when they were in San Jose. So pretty good ice time there. They're priced as a solid filler. Not that we ever stack Calgary for the power play, but it's one of those is it a good power play matchup for the Flames or a good penalty kill matchup for the Kings? Because the Kings penalty kill has been terrible this year. Last 5 weeks, 2nd most goals against per 60, 5th most goals against over the course of the season on the penalty kill. So pretty good power play matchup for the Flames. You do get 2 guys on top power play. I might just leave Zari. You want to swap in one of the power play guys for him instead or something. It's fine. But for me, it's Kadri, Farabee, and Zari is the line that I'm interested in this game. I do think like a Blake Coleman one-off or something like Blake Coleman. He's a guy that's good enough to elevate whatever line that he's on. And, he's also probably going to be traded. So maybe he wants to make himself look good. So he looks attractive to the better Stanley Cup contenders. But, like a Coleman Frost 2-man or something like that, I think something like that's fine. But if I'm 3-man stacking any line in this game, it's probably the Kadri line, but I will wait to see what the Kings lineup looks like because I have some interest in Byfield left area if that's a duo.
Yeah, Clayton wants me to say something nice about Cody Ceci. I will revert to a 50 Cent interview. He was on late night television, and the host asked him to say something nice about Ja Rule, and he goes, "He's alive." So there you go, Clayton.
That's tough.
Cody Ceci's alive. Washington Capitals with a 2.9 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.6 total. This is the people's main event. Capitals played last night with Logan Thompson in net, so it's going to be Uncle Chuck, Charlie Lindgren in net for the Caps. They went Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier, Dubois, Wilson, Protas, Sordif, Leonard, McMichael last night. PLD had a monster game at very low ownership. Montreal going Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc, Kapanen, Slavkovsky, Demidov. We were talking about this game beforehand. They're healthy scratching Alex Texier. Could be some rumblings that he's hurt. That's probably why he's scratched. But, hopefully they're not healthy scratching him like they're healthy scratching Ken Johnson. Just trade everyone to the Rangers. It's fine. But the Montreal top line, Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc, 16,500, 12.4% top 2, 13.3% projected ownership. That's very high. They have been scoring, but they're not creating a ton. A lot of that was just Caulfield running crazy hot before the break. We talked about it a bunch, like outside of Slavkovsky being up there, the only player that they've ever found to fit into that weird way that Suzuki and Caulfield play together is Alex Texier. With Kirby Doc there, 62 shot attempts per 60 is not bad, but 2 expected goals for is below league average. 4.9 actual, it's just like Suzuki's just going nuts, or Caulfield's going nuts. So I don't know. That's a lot of ownership. What I would do is leave off Kirby Doc and add in Demidov or Slavkovsky, something like that, because it's a great power play matchup. Really, what you could do is just straight up power play stack them. Just because there's negative leverage on both of the top 2 lines, I think you could just load them in here. With Charlie Lindgren in net, it's almost a goal per game drop off from Logan Thompson. So, if you're concerned about ownership, just straight up power play stack. You could go to the second line. You can go to the first line. I think both are playable. But for me, I do some sort of 3 to 5 man power play stack to get lower ownership, even if all the guys are owned. On the Capital side, I'm out on the top line. That Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc line is pretty good defensively at 16K. There's no ownership there. They're back to, Washington's not getting any ownership, and they're back-to-back on the road, so I kind of get it. But, these second and third lines are pretty interesting to me. Sordif, Leonard, McMichael against middle 6 matchups. Dubois, Wilson, Protas, it kind of feels a little chasey, but again, there's not a lot of ownership there. If I was going to go to Washington, it would be the second or third lines, and on Montreal, it would be a power play stack.
Yeah. One thing I wonder is, who does Montreal treat as the first line, right?
That is a good point.
It's
probably Ovechkin.
Historically, you would think it would be Strome and Ovechkin, but that second line, all three guys from the second line in Washington last night all played between 19 and 22 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it could be them. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And I don't know, like it's always tough to say like how specific teams are going to match up against the opponent. I know when Washington was in Philadelphia before the break, the Caps sent out Noah Cates against Dubois. So, I mean, I really don't know how it's going to work out. Either way, it's Wilson, Protas, and Dubois that I'd have interest in. Like, that was a very good line for them last year. Obviously, they haven't played as much together this year because Dubois was hurt, but nearly 70 minutes together, 3.7 expected goals, 75 shot attempts per 60. Like, that's really, really good production. Here's the problem, is that I want pieces of the Washington power play, because the Washington power play has been better with Ryan Leonard. Still not good, still below average, but better with Ryan Leonard there. And Montreal's at 3.3 times shorthanded per game since January 1st, sixth highest rate in the league, fourth highest rate in the league over the course of the season for times shorthanded per game. So they take a lot of penalties. Washington's been drawing power plays, 3.2 per game over since January 1st. That is the seventh highest rate in the league. They're above average over the course of the season. So, like, this is a pretty good power play matchup for the Caps. So, while I like the second line from Washington the best, I would probably want to get pieces of the Washington power play in there. So, like, I think what I would do is stack that second line, and then depending what I want to do elsewhere, I either add in Ovechkin or I add in Ryan Leonard, one or the other. Obviously, there's a huge price gap between the two. Ovechkin is $6,700, Leonard's $4,300. It's a $2,400 difference. So that, like I said, if there's an expensive defenseman you want to play, then maybe you put in Leonard instead. If there's not, then you can put in Ovechkin. But I want to get guys on the power play, because this is a good power play matchup. But the Washington second line is by far their best line. And I do worry about ice. The one thing about Leonard, Sordif, McMichael is ice time, right? Because they use Nick Dowd and Brandon Duhaime a fair bit, like late in games, defensive zone draws, if they can get the matchup, even though they're on the road, like a matchup on the fly or something. Those guys are going on the ice. And obviously that Dubois line is the top line, and then the Strome line after that. Like, I think Sordif, Leonard, McMichael's basically like the fourth line now. It's just something that kind of worries me. So for me, I would just stack Washington 2, and then I would add one of the power play guys, at least Ovechkin or Ryan Leonard, to the stack and be on my way. On the Montreal side, like, it is the top line. I hate it because Alex Texier should be there, but I'm not going to get into that diatribe because we'll be here for at least another hour. But it's 16,500. Like, that Montreal line, there were times this year, even with Texier there, where that line was like 18K, 19K. You know what I mean? Like, this is fairly cheap. Now, I know it seems like prices are down basically across the board here, but it feels like a pretty good price on that top line. It's a very good power play matchup for Montreal. The Washington penalty kill that's below league average this season. They also have been taking a lot of penalties like the Habs have over the last couple of months. So it is Montreal 1. Like you said, if you want to make it a power play stack, take out Doc and put in Slafkovsky or Demidov or whatever, that's what I would probably do. I do think, like, if you are power play stacking something like Tampa Bay, like a Danault Gallagher 2-man or a Danault Josh Anderson 2-man, like something like that, I think is perfectly fine, just because they're so cheap and they do get ice time. They'll probably get 14, 15, 16 minutes. Like, this isn't a line that's going to play like 11 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. And the Caps have been terrible defensively. Like, we mentioned it the other day on the show, but over the last 25 games, dead last in the NHL by expected goals against. Charlie Lindgren is starting. I went and double checked. It is exactly 1 goal against per game difference this season between Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. It's 3.4 for Lindgren and 2.4 for Logan, or 3.4 for Thompson's. Logan can't speak. 3.4 for Lindgren, 2.4 for Logan Thompson. It is quite literally a full goal per 60 minutes difference between them. So, you know, you just need to get lucky on one shot for Danault and Anderson, or Danault and Gallagher or something like that to work out. But it is the Montreal top line I like best. But I honestly think I like that Washington second line best in this game.
Yeah, and I know we talk about defensemen at the end, but like if you're going to talk about power play stacking Washington, I think the most important player might be actually Chikrin.
Jacob Chikrin. Like you said, we'll talk about it at the end. He might be the first guy in my lineup when I go to make it.
Ottawa Senators, 3.1 total. Heading into Toronto. My light is having a seizure. The Leafs have a 3 total. Stützle didn't practice this morning, but he's confirmed in. They're going Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, Cousins, Tkachuk. Holy light, take it easy. Tkachuk, Cousins, Grieg, Pinto, Amadio, Cousins. Leafs going Matthews, Nyes, Domi, Tavares, Nylander, Michelli. Easton Cowan in the game on the third line for about time. I was a bit surprised that the Leafs had a 3 total. I just this is a brutal matchup. No matter how you slice it. I know Ottawa doesn't have a great penalty kill, but Ullmark has looked better since coming back. The Toronto power play isn't amazing, especially with Morgan Riley there. It has not been great. So I don't really love the Leafs here. Like the top line of Matthews, Nyes, Domi doesn't really interest me a ton. It would probably be the line I would play is Tavares, Nylander, Michelli. Don't have a ton of interest in Matthews, Nyes, Domi just because they haven't been great at 5-on-5. They're going to run into any of the top 3 lines are really good defensively. Like the Stützle line in 90 minutes, better than league average. The Cousins, Tkachuk, Grieg line, 120 minutes, better than league average defensively. The Pinto, Amadio, Cousins line, way better than league average in 100 minutes. So this is a terrible 5-on-5 matchup. And if Ullmark is anywhere near the Ullmark of Boston, this is a terrible matchup. So, and Toronto 1 is coming in with 6.1% projected ownership to an 8.8 top 2. The second line, 4.5% top 2, but 2.6% projected ownership. That's probably where I'd go. But in that 16K range, we had the Habs we just talked about. You know what I mean? So I'm not super high on the Leafs here. I prefer the Ottawa side. And, they're not coming in with a ton of ownership here. The Tkachuk, Cousins, Grieg line, 16,300, which is sandwiched right in between Toronto's top 2 lines in terms of price, has a higher top 2 at 7.4% and 4.9% projected ownership. So they have positive leverage here. They have been great offensively. They don't play a ton, but this is a good power play spot, and I have a hard time stacking the Sens without Tkachuk. So I'm in on that line. If you want a filler, I guess, again, you don't really – there's no super need for a filler, but a 2-man of Pinto, Amadio is fine. They've been great in 100 minutes. So I guess you could do the second line if you wanted to add in Stützle or add in Batherson to make it more of a power play. That's fine. But my favorite line in this game is Ottawa 2, and it's not particularly close.
Yeah. I don't – in a nutshell, I don't like this matchup for Toronto. Like you said, if Ullmark is the Ullmark that he's typically been over the last few years and not the guy that he was in the first half of the season, it's a completely different story. And, not to keep harping on it, and it's only been 3 games, but the 3 games since because he took in case people forget, because we did have all the time off for the Olympics, he took a month off for off-ice reasons, like mental health reasons or whatever. So he was in the player assistance program for a month. He came back and he's played 3 games since, and he's given up 5 goals in 3 games. You know what I mean? He's been pretty good. His last 8 games, he's only given up 16 goals, and that's even going back before his break. If that's the guy, this is a completely different matchup than it was for the first 2 to 3 months of the season. So I don't love the matchup for Toronto. Here's the thing. Austin Matthews' ownership projection is 7%, and it's a 7-game slate with a ton of super cheap lines and whatever elsewhere. I don't like the idea of stacking anything from Toronto. I do like the idea of some one-offs from the Leafs, though. I think a one-off Austin Matthews certainly makes a lot of sense. I think a one-off like William Nylander certainly makes a lot of sense. I do wish the power play was any good at all, because this is a solid power play matchup. But not only is the power play not good, they, like we mentioned, I think we mentioned on Thursday's show, they don't draw power plays at all. 1.9 per game since January 1st. It's the lowest rate in the league. 2.3 per game over the course of the season, also the lowest rate in the league. So this is a below average power play that doesn't get power plays. Like, that's just a pretty bad combination. But Matthews has looked really good over the last couple months. Nylander, I mean, he's riding percentages. That's what worries me. But like, certainly a one-off Austin Matthews, I think, is perfectly fine considering the low prices across the slate and the fact that he is, I mean, I don't know. It depends what you might want to think of, like Nikita Kucherov or something. But Austin Matthews is by far the best goal scorer on this slate, and he's at 7% at home. That's the one thing that's kind of concerning me. So one-offs maybe. I don't think I'm full stacking anything. The Ottawa side, I kind of agree with you on Ottawa too. They don't get that much ice time. That's the one thing that does worry me, right? The other game, they got 16 or 17 minutes. The Stutzel line got more. The Pinto line got more. I think everybody from the Pinto line had more ice time than everybody from the Dylan Cousins, Brady Tkachuk line. And that was a tightly contested 2-1 game that went to overtime. That
was at home though, right? Where they send out Pinto and Top Count.
Yeah, but I was looking at it earlier. Like, Tim Stützle gets less ice time on the road than he does at home.
Who's their coach? Fire him.
Anyways, so I do like the Ottawa second line because they have been very good. 3.6 expected goals, 3.7 actual per 60 at 5-on-5. And it's not with like a super high shooting percentage, right? 11.3% for that line shooting. It might be a little high for a Brady Tkachuk line, but it's not 15, 16, 17% or something like that. It'd be like at the upper limit of a normal range for him. So I do like Ottawa 2 the best. Considering the cheap prices everywhere, I would be almost tempted to take off Grieg and put in Stützle or something like that. Or, if you want to play Ottawa 2 and add Jake Sanderson on the blue line. It's not like the Toronto penalty kill has been good, but the Ottawa power play has also been excellent in this current iteration of the 5-man unit with Tkachuk and Stützle there. So I agree with you. It's Ottawa 2. I think Ottawa 3 perfectly fine if you need if you need a cheap stack to go elsewhere. But it's Ottawa 2, but I would be really tempted to take out Grieg and put in one of Stützle or Batherson or something like that, just because those guys will get minutes. And I mean, all the matchups against Toronto are pretty good. I'm not worried about top line, second line. And the prices across the slate are fairly depressed. So I'd be perfectly fine adding in one of the expensive guys.
Yep. Agreed. Buffalo Sabres 2.6 total heading into Tampa. The Lightning have a 3.8. Buffalo played last night. They won Thompson, Krebs, Alex Tuch, McLeod, Zucker, Quinn, Norris, Doan, Ostland. Cirelli skated the past few days. He hasn't been ruled out. It doesn't seem likely, but they're leaving the door open. So that's one of those you have to wait and see. What we have right now is Point, Kucherov, Gonsalves, Gensel, Bjorkstrand, Hagel, Gord, Gergensons, Holmberg. The reason I mentioned that third line is because they play a lot of minutes if they go 11-7. Gord plays 19, Gergensons and Holmberg play 16, 17. Again, there's no huge need for them here tonight, but it's just something to keep in mind going forward. On Lightning, if Cirelli's out, it's just back to the big four. You know what I mean? Point, Kucherov, Gensel, Hagel. Do what you want there. Play Point, Kucherov. Play Gensel, Kucherov. Play Gensel, Point, Kucherov. And then go find one of those cheap lines we've talked about. If Cirelli's in, we'll have to see what the lines look like. But I would imagine maybe they go Hagel, Cirelli, X, and then they put Gensel up on the top line with Point and Kucherov. I don't know.
I think that they'd leave Gonsalves on the top line and just go Gensel, Hagel, Cirelli.
Yeah, that would be a line of interest for me. We'll have to see. But if Cirelli's out, it's the big four, mix and match. On the Buffalo side, this is even without Cirelli, this is a tough matchup. Tampa Bay is so good defensively. They have an elite penalty kill. Vasilevsky's in net. I guess if anything, I mean, I played Thompson Tuck last night, and that worked out in my favor, but I don't have a tremendous amount of interest going back to them here tonight at 16,700. I'd probably be more in on Buffalo 2 or Buffalo 3. Now, power play is not super important, but I'd probably go to Norris, Doan, Ostlund here at 11,100. They've been pretty good in their 3 games together. But again, I'm not running out to play Buffalo here. That's definitely more of an MME type deal.
Yeah, so obviously on the Tampa side, it's like Los Angeles. I mean, they're not like Los Angeles in any way, but you know what I mean? Like, we have to see what the lineup looks like. Because the thing is like, if Cirelli's in on that second line, the line of – because it's been a while, but the line of Cirelli, Hagel, Kensel has been absolutely nuclear this season. 87 shot attempts, 4.8 expected goals, 5.5 actual goals per 60 and 5-on-5.
That's disgusting.
That is preposterous stuff. And it's, I think it's a little, it's just, it's not a massive sample. It's around 100 minutes, but I mean, just really, really good. You know, you don't like to make Tampa stacks without Kucherov. That's the one thing, right? So like, I'd be tempted, like if you want to do like Cirelli, Gensel, Kucherov or something like that, that would be where I would go. It's funny. When I ran Sims with the newest update, the forward with the highest exposure in my run compared to their expected ownership is Nikita Kucherov. 22.5% exposure to 18% ownership. So Sims seemed pretty high on Kucherov. I wouldn't want to leave him off either. You know, the Buffalo penalty kill, I think we mentioned on Thursday, but it's worth mentioning again. Over the course of the season, the Buffalo penalty kill has been very, very good, 4th in the league. But it's been on a steady slide basically since the start of December. And since January 1st, the Buffalo penalty kill basically league average. So I think it's a pretty good power play matchup for Tampa. We'll get to the defenseman later. Like, I think maybe you might just want to play Darren Radish, but we'll get to that in a second. But I would probably, if Cirelli's in, I would probably do like Cirelli against Kucherov, something like that. If Cirelli's not in, I'll probably just go like point Kucherov and even leave Gonsalves and just be on my way. Because they do get second and third line matchups. The Gord line will take the Tage Thompson matchup, so they'll get better 5-on-5 matchups. So it would be like Cirelli, like I said, probably Cirelli against Kucherov if Cirelli's in. If he's not, I'd just play Tampa 1. On the Buffalo side, I'm not playing the Thompson line just because they are getting the Gord line. The Gord line's been excellent defensively this season, 2.1 expected goals against so far this year for that third line, 1.7 actual goals against, and like you said, pretty good penalty kill for the Lightning. So out on Buffalo 1. Buffalo 2 is what's interesting to me here because of that McLeod line. Because they're not coming in with any ownership. 0.3% projected ownership. Zucker, Quinn, McLeod, 11,900. 4 expected goals, 4.2 actual goals per 60 for that line this season in 250 minutes together. They're not good defensively. They trade chances back and forth, but they do create a lot of offense. They're going to avoid Yanni Gord. They're priced as a filler. McLeod is probably their number 2 or number 3 forward by ice time. Those guys will play 15 to 17 minutes. If you want to just do a 2-man like McLeod Zucker, McLeod Quinn or something like that, I think that's fine. It's Buffalo 2 that I do have a little bit of interest on them. And it's, again, when I was running the Sims, there is only one team with 2 players whose exposure is at least 3% or higher than their projected ownership. And it is Buffalo, and one of the players from one of those 2 players is Ryan McLeod. So I think for me, it's Buffalo 2 that I'm interested in on the Buffalo side. And like I said, on the Tampa Bay side, it's Cirelli, Gensel, Kucherov if Cirelli's in. If not, it's just straight up Tampa 1.
I don't think the Sims are aware that Jim Hiller didn't get fired. outside of your Vancouver Canucks, the Kings organization is the worst from top to bottom. And that includes the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for Vancouver, at least they're bottoming out. So like they probably get a first round pick next year. They'll probably get another top 5 pick next year. The hope is that they can rebuild in the next 4 or 5 years. I have no idea what the Kings do. Because if the Kings do decide to rebuild, by the time that rebuild's done, Brandt Clark and Byfield are gonzo. So tough scenes.
Yeah, Rangers are definitely strongly in this competition, but like they at least have a core. The Kings and the Canucks have players. Nashville Predators with a 2.8 total heading into Dallas. The Stars have a 3.3. Preds going O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista, Haula, Forsberg, Marchessault. Stars going Johnson, Robertson, Bourque, Duchesne, Steele, Ben. Super much wow ownership on Dallas one here. Robertson, Johnston, Bourque, 18,600, 28.2% top 2, 27.7% projected ownership. I have a bit of a conundrum here with that. One, they see a fair bit of top comp, right? You know, Dallas does send out that Radek Faxo line or whatever their fourth line is against top lines, similar to like.
Yeah, but he's not playing.
Yeah, he's not playing. So like the Johnson line may see more of that here tonight. They have been good offensively, but O'Reilly, Stamkos, Evangelista in 130 minutes, that's not a small sample. That's getting to a sample where it's like, yeah, this might be who they are. Has been excellent defensively. This Nashville top line, 130 minutes, 1.7 expected goals against per 60. They're controlling 60% of the shot share. Dallas top line underwater by shot share, 62-4, 67 against per 60. I don't know if their ownership is justified here. Now, can you play them? Yeah, you can. Like, it's Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnston. They're extremely important. They're the two most important players on their power play. So from that instance, I think they're a fine play. It's just like, do I really want to play them at 27.7% projected ownership when, you know, their line is like almost double the highest ownership of any other line on the slate. So I don't know if I want to get there. I think what I would do, right, if I'm interested in some sort of power play stack, I think I would go like Duchesne, Ben, Johnston. Even just go the four of them, Duchesne, Ben, Johnston, Robertson, and call it a day, because Ben 3,500, Duchesne's 4,700. That's 8,200 for the two of them, where Mikko Rantanen is generally 8,200 by himself, right? So you can get that four-man stack in. Duchesne, Ben, Steele have been fine in 60 minutes. You know, once you get past that O'Reilly, Evangelista line, there's no concerns defensively. So if I was going to play Johnson Robertson, I would at least add in one or both of Duchesne and Ben just to combat that ownership a bit. So that's probably where I'd be on the Dallas side. On the Nashville side, I'm having a conundrum about this Nashville top line as well, because they've been unbelievable. And they have a 5.1% top 2 to 1% projected ownership. And that Johnson and Robertson Bourque line has not been good defensively, but who has been very good defensively is Haskin and Lindell. And that's where I kind of run into a problem. So at 1%, if I was 20 maxing, having 1 of 20 gets you 5x the field, and I'd be very happy with that. So, I mean, that's fine. I don't mind that second line. I know Eric Hall doesn't do anything for me, but a two-man of like Marchessault, Forsberg against the middle six of Dallas, against the Harley Lundqvist pairing and Bichelle Labushkin. Like, I guess that's fine, but I'm not running out to play like Nashville 2 on a 7-game slate. If anything, it would be the top line just because of how good they've been and ownership wise. And on Dallas, like, the top line's fine. That ownership's ridiculous. I'd find a way to make it some sort of power play stack to combat the ownership.
Yeah. I'll start on the Dallas side, and I'll start with what the Sims were saying. When I ran them, it gave me 8 skaters whose exposure is at least 5% less than their ownership. So players that the Sims are lower on, and half of those 8 players are from Dallas. Heiskanen, Bork, Ben, Duchesne. It's like, I know the one thing that worries me is what I said on, I think it was Thursday that they played. Maybe it was Wednesday. It's the ice time, right? Because Dallas played Seattle at home. Dallas was up 4-0 midway through the second period, and Jason Robertson still played 22 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like, if this is a close game, if this is like a 3-3 game in the third period or something, Roberts is probably playing 25 plus. That's what worries me, is like, these guys are going to get as much ice time as they can possibly handle. That's why I don't like fading them. It's because if this lineup were healthy and Robertson and Johnston were coming in at 25 to 30% ownership, and we'd only expect them to be playing maybe 18 or 19 minutes, I wouldn't even consider playing them. The fact that if this isn't a close game, Dallas is winning in a blowout, they're going to be involved. If this is a close game and it's 2-2 or 3-3 at the end of the second or whatever, these guys are going to play a lot of minutes. And that's why I have a hard time fading them. They haven't been very good defensively, but 3.6 expected goals per 60 in their minutes together. They haven't been finishing, but I imagine they won't keep shooting 1.5% as a line for very much longer. I do think that they're going to run into the O'Reilly line. That's not great, but they're going to play so much that they're going to end up playing probably half their 5-on-5 minutes against the depth anyways, right? So it'd be Dallas 1. I don't know if I would necessarily power play stack. I think they scored, is it 1 power play goal the other night against Seattle?
2. Yeah.
That was the Seattle penalty kill. It's not the Nashville penalty kill, which has been not great, but it hasn't been the Seattle penalty kill. So I'm not super keen on power play stacking. There's a ton of negative leverage on Duchesne and Ben. I would just straight up stack the Dallas first line and then figure out something to do with the defenseman. So that's where I am on Dallas. I honestly, most nights I wouldn't play line 25 to 30% on a 7-game slate. The fact that I think Robertson and Johnson are probably going to play. I think the floor in a close game is 20 minutes. The ceiling is like 25 plus. So I'm not super keen on fading Dallas's top line here. On the Nashville side, running into Heiskanen and Lindell does suck, but this has been a very good top line for Nashville, right? Like you mentioned, how good they've been defensively. Offensively, they're at 4.3 expected goals, 5.6 actual. Like, that's just absolute nuts. They don't get a ton of ice time, but again, when I ran them in the Sims, Steven Stamkos was like the 3rd highest for exposure over ownership. And Ryan O'Reilly wasn't that far behind. So I guess it'd probably be more 20 max or something like that. But I don't mind Nashville 1 just because they're not expensive, right? 16,800, you can fit them in with another mid-price line very easily. And they've been excellent at 5-on-5. And it's not like Jake Ottinger's been lights out this year or anything like that, right? So it'd be both top lines for me in this game. It's not a game where I'm looking to the depth. But I'm finding it, as much as I don't want to play Dallas, the fact that I do think they're going to get a lot of minutes, I'm finding it really hard to fade them.
Let's get to this late hammer. Got to take a deep breath for this one. Vancouver Canucks with a 2.7 total heading into Seattle. The Kraken have a 3.3. As far as I know, the Canucks are going Pettersson, DeBrusk, Kane, Rossi, O'Connor, Besser, Bluger, Garland, Ogren. Seattle going Beniers, McCann, Eberle, Schwartz, Stevenson, Tolvanen, and then right, Kakko, Catton. So I'll start on the Vancouver side. None of their lines are getting a ton of ownership. The top line, 1.5%. The rest of them combined, no one's playing them. Like DraftKings might actually give you money to play them. It's a good power play spot for Vancouver, but their power play is atrocious. I don't know, man. Like Besser and Rossi together have been absolutely terrible. Pettersson, DeBrusk, Kane, atrocious. They've scored because they're shooting hot, but they're not controlling the play. They're getting run out of the building defensively. Their best line is the third line, Bluger, Garland, Ogren. They're above water. They have a pretty good pace, 2.6 expected goals, 3.1 actual in 80 minutes. It's like if you're doing some expensive Tampa stuff in MME and the Sims gives you a two-man of like Garland, Ogren, you might throw up in your mouth a little bit, but like it's probably where I would be on Vancouver, as horrifying as that sounds. So I honestly like the only thing I like on Vancouver is that third line. There's no true need to play Vancouver third line on a 7-game slate. I'd have a hard time committing to them on a 2-game slate, let alone in showdown. But like Garland, Ogren, 5,900 for the two of them. They've been passable, whatever. The Seattle side is a problem because it's Seattle. And Jaden Schwartz moving up to Stevenson and Tolvanen, unfortunately, we have to consider this line now because it's going to Schwartz over Catton is going to help them on both ends of the ice. And helping them offensively here is kind of a big deal because with Catton there, they were absolutely god-awful. You throw Jaden Schwartz up there, if you get them to league average against this Pettersson line, they're going to run them over. This Pettersson line in 85 minutes, 3.8 expected goals against per 60. They're controlling 39% of the shot share. That's unthinkably bad. So, like, I'm not running out to play a Chandler Stevenson line, but there are only 10,300. And it does let you get, like, Tampa in if you do, like, a two-man of Stevenson, Tolvanen, or Stevenson, Schwartz. Stevenson's on the top power play unit. That power play unit honestly hasn't been awful since they put the top line fully correlated on it. But that's the thing, right? That top line is fully correlated, 15,100 going out against Rossi and Besser, which have been equally as atrocious defensively. Beniers, Eberle, McCann, fully correlated, 15,100. They play heavy minutes. They have good offensive numbers. It's easily my favorite line in this game. Everyone agrees, 8.2% top two, 12.9% projected ownership. Not awful positive leverage, but when you include the Seattle Kraken factor into it, it feels real bad. But that would be the line I would play. I will say I'm never in on a Stevenson line, but going out against a Pettersson line, like you have to consider them. A two-man of Shane Wright and Capo Kakko, fine, whatever. But it would be Seattle 1, Seattle 2, Seattle 3, then Vancouver 3.
That's really interesting. I was talking about this on social media earlier today. Since American Thanksgiving, which again was 3 months ago, Elias Pettersson, Jake DeBrusk, Connor Garland, and Brock Besser have as many goals combined as Morgan Geekie. Over the last 3 months, Vancouver's leading goal scorer, take a guess.
Tom Willander.
Actually, he might not be that far down the list. Their leading goal scorer is Linus Karlsson with 7 goals. He played 9 minutes the other night. This team's a disaster. I was looking at the Vancouver top line since they traded Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, and Kane. 2.75 goals per 60. That's something like 8% above the league average, and that's shooting 12%. They're just bad. They're bad. Second line's not going to be much better. I agree with you. The only interest I have in playing Vancouver here is the third line. If you two-man like Bluger and Garland or something like that, just if you're playing like super expensive Tampa or Dallas or something like that, you do need some cheap guys. It is Vancouver 3. Other than that, I don't have a lot of interest in the Canucks. Like, think about Pettersson, DeBrusk, Besser, and Connor Garland. Like, off the top of my head, that's what, like $28 million in salary cap space, and they're basically as productive as Morgan Geekie. Like, what the hell is going on with that team?
Gotta give Geekie $28 million then, man.
Make him the highest paid
Do
player.
it, Bruins.
So yeah. Anyways, we'll talk about Vancouver defensemen. I think I might have more interest in their defensemen, but Vancouver 3 on the Seattle side, and this might be the only time I say this season. It might be a power play stack. Just because the Seattle power play, I think their second season they had a good power play unit, but the Seattle power play hasn't been that bad this year. Like 7 goals per 60. I was looking at the wrong data. 7.5 goals per 60. That's worse than league average, but it's a lot better than almost any Seattle power play ever is. And the Vancouver penalty kill is the only penalty kill that rivals Seattle's for being terrible. And another reason is they're very cheap, right? You can power play stack Seattle, which is the top line, plus Chandler Stevenson, plus Vince Dunn. And then you can two-man Brayden Point, Nikita Kucherov. Or you can two-man Wyatt Johnston and Jason Robertson. And then you can still fit in. Like, you don't have to play like a $2,500 defenseman. You can play, like, depending on which two-man you use, like a $3,000 to $5,000 defenseman. So, like, it is a great power play spot because Vancouver's penalty kill is at the bottom of the league with Seattle's over the course of the season, over the last 5 weeks. Seattle's power play is at least approaching league average. The Seattle top line has been good offensively this season, as opposed to anything that Vancouver's done. They do get minutes. The other night, they all played 18 and 19 minutes. So added Chandler Stevenson. He's not super expensive. If they score goals on the power play, he's probably going to assist on them. He's still a good playmaker. Whatever else he is, he's still a good playmaker. So I think it's a Seattle power play stack I like best in this game. If you want to just play Seattle 1, go ahead. Like, no issue with that. It is a Seattle power play stack I like best, and I guess Vancouver 3 if you need some cheap guys, but they need an exorcism.
We should live stream watching that game tonight. Just crack some. No, I'll be sleeping. I'm too old for that kind of behavior. I have one drink, I'll be out all next week. Let's talk about defensemen here. The top range, we have Roman Josi. He's the only guy 7K and up at 7,800. Then we have Rasmus Dahlin, Jacob Chikrin, Darren Radish, Miro Heiskanen. Contractually obligated to mention Jake Sanderson because we love Jake Sanderson. I think the two guys I'm super interested in are Jacob Chikrin and Darren Radish. Roman Josi at that price is just expensive. I don't know if you have 7,800, you can plug him in, but I'm not running out to play Roman Josi. I'd much rather play Chikrin or Radish. After that, I would throw, Jake Sanderson 3, Miro Heiskanen 4. I guess Rasmus Dahlin 4, and then Miro Heiskanen 5. But the two guys I have the most interest in by far in the top range are Chikrin and Radish. And then there is some good stuff in the mid-range here that are projecting well that I'll let Cliffy get to. But for me, it's Chikrin and Radish.
Yeah. If you look at the projections, the top projected defensemen are Darren Radish and Jacob Chikrin in that order. Radish has point per dollar value over 2. When I ran the Sims, he was the highest exposed for defenseman number 1 for exposure, which usually doesn't happen for super expensive defensemen, but it is here. Like, it is a really good spot for him. Even with all their defensemen back, Radish played 25 minutes the other night against Carolina, and that was with McDonough and with Moser and with Hedman. Like, Hedman played like 13 minutes or something like that. So he's still getting a ton of ice time. So yeah, it goes Radish 1, Chikrin 2 for me. Jake Sanderson is kind of interesting just because he does get a lot of ice time. He can put up peripherals. But I don't really worry about ownership that much. And if I had 6,100 for Sanderson, I'd probably find the $300 to play Radish. In the mid price range, I'll mention Lane Hudson just because it's a good power play matchup for Montreal. Peripherals aren't that great, but he does get ice time in a good power play matchup. Shane Gostisbehere for Carolina, just because the power play has been getting better, but his ice time isn't great. So for me, I think it's MME only. The two Seattle guys, I think I would play Vinny Dunn if I was playing a Seattle stack, especially a top line stack. If I'm just playing a Seattle defenseman, I'd probably just play Brandon Montour. He has one of the highest values for any defenseman priced over 4K point per dollar values. So he's perfectly fine. Brant Clark, I mean, assuming Doughty's not playing, I did just see that Andrei Kuzmenko is having knee surgery, so he's out.
Random. Okay.
So assuming Doughty's out, like Clark's going to have to play minutes. Like they're finally going to have to let him off the leash a little bit. Philip Hronik, like I don't really like anything from Vancouver, but it looks, I believe they're sitting Tyler Myers again because they're going to trade him. And Hronik was playing 24, 25 minutes a game anyway. Like this might be the like 28 minutes a game, 28-minute game for him or something. So Hronik under 4K, S. Lindell's projecting well. Matt Roy's projecting well, especially point per dollar, as is Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think Adam Larsson is a little expensive for Seattle, but it's also Vancouver, so I think the inflation is justified. Artem Zub for Ottawa, under 3K. Keandre Miller, Marcus Pettersson for Vancouver. Like, I don't really love the Vancouver defenseman, generally speaking, but the fact that Myers is out, like there are going to be a lot of minutes to make up. Rasmus Sandin for Washington. Pretty good matchup for him. And I'll mention Caden Gooley for Montreal just because he plays 20 to 21 minutes and he's under 3K.
So there's a Kings beat writer, Mayer's Manor. He's projecting,
they're pretty reliable.
Yeah, he's projecting the Kings lineup with Doughty out and Armia in. But he has Laferriere, Panarin, and Kempe together with Kopitar, Byfield, and Perry. But it remains to be seen. But if Doughty's out, like at best, they put Dumoulin up there. At worst, it's Cody Ceci. So,
they should go 4 forwards, 1 defenseman, and just play Brant Clark or Mikey Anderson 30 minutes each.
But we'll see. It's an early lock, so let's talk about goalies, even though we don't want to. In the top range here, it's honestly, I've seen it way worse, but I don't particularly love it. The top of the board, Vasilevsky at 8,400 against the Sabres back-to-back on the road. That's more of a cash play type deal. There's other guys who I would play in that range for a little bit cheaper. Joey Decord, if he starts at 8K, I think would be the guy. I know the Kings are a mess, but if it is Darcy Kemper, the Flames are they do have a lot of shots, and a lot of them are high danger. So I think you could go Kemper. Just get it out of the way here. On the same side of this game, the Kings are a mess, and I think my favorite cheap play is Dustin Wolf at 7,300. So we'll just get that out of the way there. Jake Ottinger, the Carolina goalie, kind of me. Dobish, I guess he's fine in the mid range, but I think in the mid range, I'd probably go to both goalies in the Toronto game, Woll and Ullmark. I'd lean a little bit to Ullmark, but again, like I don't think Woll's a bad play just because Ottawa's not super dangerous at 5-on-5. Famous last words, but I don't mind either of them. And then, for cheap guys, it's Dustin Wolf by a mile. If you had to get super cheap, it would probably be Cam Talbot or UC Saros, but I don't want to go below Dustin Wolf if I can afford it.
Yeah. I think Joey Decord is going to be starting. I don't know if it's confirmed, but I think he is. Honestly, even if it's Grubauer, I'd play either one. Like at home against Vancouver, like that. Talk about shutout equity. Again, famous last words. Yeah, Darcy Kemper as well. I know Askarov kind of let people down the other night. I mean, that happens, but and I know Kemper just got his brains beat in by Edmonton. But again, Calgary is not the Edmonton Oilers. So Decord or Grubauer, whoever starts, or Kemper. And I don't mind Woll either at 7,800. It's just because I prefer him over Allmark just because it's a shot volume thing. Like, just the Sens are such a good defensive team at 5-on-5. I worry Allmark it's like it's 3 goals against on 26 shots or something like that. You know what I mean? So probably Decord or Kemper and the expensive goalies. If you're not playing Kemper, I think Dustin Wolf makes a lot of sense. Like, I'm not super scared of the Kings offense, especially without Doughty. Like, Doughty himself isn't a big producer. They don't have anybody else that can move the puck besides Brant Clark. So I don't know how the Kings generate any offense when he's not on the ice. So I certainly don't mind Dustin Wolf at 7,300. I'll mention Talbot just because it is Carolina. Talbot hasn't been that great this year. It really does worry me. The fact that Dustin Wolf is only $100 more expensive, I would find the extra $100 to go get Dustin Wolf. But if you absolutely had only 7,200, it would probably be Cam Talbot. I'd rather play him than like Saros or UPL or something like that.
It looks like we are going to be here every day next week. Wednesday's a little questionable for me. I don't know if I'll be home in time. It's a 5-game slate, but we'll be here for sure Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
He turned around an entire playoff series with one monster hit. I think he's going to have a big game here tonight. Tommy Wilson.
I feel awful for the words I'm about to utter. I need to apologize to all my sponsors, to Jake, to everyone at Stokastic, but I'm going Chandler Stevenson.
Has he scored 3 goals this year?
I'm sure on a game where we trashed him, he had like a 5-point game with 4 secondary assists and a shot.
He actually has 13 goals this year. That's pretty impressive.
But yeah, Chandler Stevenson. We will be back on Monday. As always, if you are interested in trying out the Sims, use promo code PUCKLUCK for 15% off any subscription at stokastic.com/pricing. Good luck, everybody, tonight. We'll see you in the Discord.
Chandler Stevenson has 5 shots in his last 10 games.
Probably has 4 goals, too.
Good luck tonight, everyone.